Well, it shows how quickly things are escalating and the level of violence meted out to people who are asking questions.
Look, we haven't given our usual focus to events in Los Angeles and beyond concerning the way that the immigration body ICE has been conducting the removal of what they say are illegal immigrants, partly because of this Air India crash, but also because we're tending to find stuff happening after our show, so we can't bring much of a live update. But I just wonder if we can get sort of a cursory update on what might be happening this evening, whether there are any organised events. I understand that there's a big focus on the weekend when it comes to sort of planned further action.
Yeah, you're right. There is this No Kings protest being organised in cities nationwide on Saturday. And I think that's going to be a focal point. And it coincides, of course, with the big Trump birthday/military parade in Washington. Although I see the Times is running with a bit of a scoop that it might be cancelled owing to severe weather warnings. There are thunderstorms forecast for Saturday. Summer is a time of riots and protests because people are out on the street. But I think that the cities are feeling somewhat subdued at the moment. But yeah, watch out for Friday night and the weekend.
All right. We'll keep across that, of course. A hearing on whether President Trump can use the National Guard to assist with riots in Los Angeles or protests in Los Angeles is set for today. Here's California Governor Gavin Newsome speaking to the New York Times today about why Trump does need to be challenged.
I think it's a red line when you're using military that are trained for foreign incursions to do domestic law enforcement in American cities. I think that's a red line. If that's not a red line, I don't know what red lines mean. This is the United States military being used for domestic law enforcement. Police not allowed to police. Now we have to address the issue of the military coming in and militarizing the streets of the United States of America.
Yeah, that was Gavin Newsome speaking a little earlier. I know that Pete Hegseth, the Defence Secretary, has also been making comments on this today, refusing to commit to obeying courts on the Marines in LA. Of course, several hundred Marines have been dispatched to that area, and the courts are keen that neither the National Guard nor the military help ICE, the immigration enforcers, with their work, Sarah.
Well, that's right. And Hegseth has something else in his back pocket as well, which the Attorney General Pam Bondi has alluded to, which is that if the courts do block the military from acting, as Gavin Newsome is trying to ensure they do, there's always the 1807 Insurrection Act that can be invoked. Although you'd think that would take a high bar, it seems to be a presidential prerogative. So Trump is determined to get the military out on the streets. As you said, there are already 7,000 or so in Los Angeles. The Texan governor has mobilized his National Guard to put down any civil disobedience or protests. So I suppose he'd call it violent protests. And of course, the Trump administration refers to these protests as being conducted by foreign invaders. And I think that's the distinction between the Trump administration and Gavin Newsom. Newsom, the governor of California, is saying they're civilian protesters, but the administration wants to treat all immigrants as foreign invaders and any protesters as aiding and abetting foreign invaders.
All right. Look, there's been a bit of a tussle at a press conference by Kristi Noem, who is the Secretary for Homeland Security. She gave a press conference. She was talking about what was going on in California and in LA. And in it, the Senator of California, the senior US Senator, Alex Padilla, was handcuffed and detained. He appeared to be trying to ask a question at the time. We've got some footage that has been published to X on this. Let's just have a listen.
Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your...
I also want to...
Hands up!
Many of our ICE agents have been docked.
On the ground. On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go and behind my back.
All right. Cool. With that hand. Lay flat.
So that's the California Senator, the Democrat Alex Padilla, being forcibly removed from that press conference with the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, and handcuffed. You could hear that there. The DHS has claimed that Padilla lunged towards Noem without identifying himself. He says he was beginning to ask a question. Sarah, just give us some more context to this. It looks like an ugly scuffle in light of what is already a really fractious situation.
Yeah, well, it shows how quickly things are escalating and the level of violence meted out to people who are asking questions. Well, I doubt very much that Padilla lunged. He is a senator. He wanted to ask a question and he was thrown to the ground and handcuffed. Now, this is the kind of short shrift that any challengers to the administration policy are getting at the moment. And I think Kristi Noem is somewhat recognizing that it went over the top, because she has gone on to say that, you know, she might meet with Senator Padilla later to hear what his questions were, because obviously senators will be up in arms at this treatment. The truth is, I doubt very much that the law enforcement knew that he was a senator, but he was certainly someone of Mexican descent, which tells its own story about how people are being treated.
Alex Padilla was reading a statement just a few minutes ago. He says that he and his colleagues were asking the Department for Homeland Security for answers on their increasingly extreme immigration enforcement actions. And their queries were met with little to no information. He came to the press conference to hear what Kristi Noem had to say. He said, emphasising the right for people to peacefully protest and to stand up for their First Amendment, their fundamental rights. I was there peacefully. He said, I had a question, so I began to ask that question, and then he was forcibly moved. I was not arrested and not detained. And he went on to make the point, Padilla, the Californian senior senator, that if this is how they respond to a senator with a question, imagine what they're doing across the country to farm workers, to cooks, to day labourers throughout the LA community and throughout California and throughout the United States.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody is on edge. I have to say, about 10 minutes before coming on air, there's a lot of police outside my door. And in fact, their lights are still strobing at the moment. And I did go out to see what was happening, because clearly somebody was being handcuffed. Two people were being handcuffed and led away. And I had to wonder whether they were being deported. Now, it turns out they weren't. But as I say, I think communities are very much on edge at the moment.
Yeah, everyone's looking out for this, aren't they? It's very much a theme, and that is a theme that is not welcomed by many, concerning many people in the United States at the moment. OK, Sarah, let's talk about Israel. It's threatened a strike on Iran, forcing President Trump into a partial evacuation of US staff from Iraq and other Middle Eastern posts. He spoke at a press conference earlier today, Donald Trump, about how close the strike was to happening.
Well, I don't want to say imminent, but it looks like it's something that could very well happen. Look, it's very simple, not complicated. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Other than that, I want them to be successful. I want them to be tremendous. We'll help them be successful. We'll trade with them. We'll do whatever is necessary. You know, I stopped a war between India and Pakistan. Unbelievable, actually. They understood it exactly. They stopped. I stopped that war with phone calls and trade.
There we go. Well, look, he is in the midst of trying to strike a nuclear agreement with Iran. But a significant escalation that we're hearing about here. He could be deterred from what he's trying to achieve by Israel, of course. So it feels fully ready, they say, to launch an operation into Iran, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to downplay this in case there is an assault on Iran, but there are negotiations underway, helped by the Omanis, and I can't help feeling that this is some saber rattling in order to sort of bang heads together and get an agreement as soon as possible, because the Iranian regime has been talking tough, Israel has been talking very tough, and of course, it suits Donald Trump to act as the restrainer in this situation. I mean, it is rather amusing to say that he personally stopped the whole Indian-Pakistan conflict because the two parties that conflict disagree with his assessment. But of course, Trump does want to be seen as the world's peacemaker through strength. Remember that slogan, peace through strength, that Reagan used to adopt and Trump has made his own. So this could be in the context of talking tough about potential threats. I hope he's right and nothing is going to happen that, from Israel's side.
Okay, we'll move on to President Trump's appearance at a new production of Les Miserables last night. It caused the audience to erupt in a chorus of cheers and boos. Here's the reaction as he took to his seat with wife Melania. That is bold, isn't it? The venue, the Kennedy Center, became the focus of a political row in February as President Trump appointed himself as its chair. Remind us why he did that, Sarah.
Well, the Kennedy Center, the clue's in the name, is a bastion of liberalism at the heart of Washington, D.C. And of course, it's, Washington is a Democrat-run city. John F. Kennedy was a Democratic president. And, it's done things like put on drag shows as well as, very diverse productions and so forth. And Trump has just come in and ruthlessly changed the board and imposed himself as chairman. Now, Les Mis, of course, can be read in different ways. And I was very amused to find that Trump was asked, is he Jean Valjean? In other words, does he identify with being a sort of model human being, ex-convict, persecuted, or is he more of an Inspector Javert, the remorseless, relentless persecutor of the state, of this, convict? So, and of course, he's both. He said, well, I don't know, because, that's a tough one. And really, when he's the victim, he likes to feel like he's being persecuted by the state, like Jean Valjean, but he's also goes after his enemies, hell for leather, relentlessly, like Inspector Javert. So, and the fact is that can you hear the people sing has become a real MAGA anthem about storming the barricades on on January the 6th. But of course, if you were to storm any barricades at the moment in Los Angeles, you'd be deported or face certain arrest. So it's almost the perfectly contradictory musical for Trump.